We think that all businesses should have the ability to compete, not just a certain number of specific individuals. You're attempting to legalize a drug that will still be illegal under the eyes of the federal government without the specific safeguards and authority of elected officials to be able to regulate this and protect citizens and children.
It wasn't even close. Supporters of the marijuana legalization ballot effort in Ohio were certain they had the momentum to carry the day and start lighting up without fear of arrest. So certain a $20 million campaign made the point and would convince a majority the time was now to go grazing in the grass. With apologies to the Friends of Distinction in their 1969 hit of the same name, there will be no grazing by a wide margin of defeat. The amendment was beaten almost 2-1. But the Buds insist they will be back for another hit. Is it just inevitable, though, that America will be a toking nation eventually, and soon? Let's get some perspective from a man who rose to the rank of captain in the Cincinnati, Ohio Police Department, now a member of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, Howard Rahtz. I want to thank you so much for joining us, sir. So let's go ahead and get right to the point that John Kasich made. Here's the Ohio governor and the Republican presidential candidate. The results of the vote on legalizing marijuana, here's what he said. At a time when too many families are being torn apart by drug abuse, Ohioans said no to easy access to drugs and instead chose a path that helps strengthen our families and our communities. Captain, could he be more wrong in your opinion?
Well, the drug abuse problem he currently talks about in Ohio is heroin. There's Exhibit A in the failure of the war on drugs. After 50 years, heroin has never been cheaper, never more available, and never more potent than it is today. And all this while we have draconian penalties against it. So it just fails the common sense test, in my opinion.
But why then? And you're right about heroin and the heroin problem in Ohio. We've seen it. The stories have been done. It is an epidemic. But then why, if heroin is so rampant, why then would it be right to go ahead and legalize marijuana?
Well, a couple reasons. One, there's a nice study done by the Journal of the American Medical Association, which compared states with medical marijuana with states that did not have medical marijuana. And the opioid overdose death rate in those states with medical marijuana was 25% less. So simply by doing that, we're going to save some lives. The other thing we can do when we legalize marijuana, and I think the results in Ohio are less about the legalization of marijuana and more about the proposed format. As I've read the comments of people and listened to voters, I think the idea of legalization is still strong, but people reacted strongly to this, what was described as a monopoly idea. So if we legalize marijuana, one of the things we can do is, as in Colorado, tax it fairly heavily and earmark that money for treatment of heroin folks. So that today in Cincinnati, I can tell you, if you call for help for a heroin problem, the best outcome you can hope for is to be put on a waiting list. And what we've done is just push these people back into the arms of the cartels.
Now, Captain,
so if we greatly expanded the treatment capacity, it would have a significant impact. I
want to get to issue 3 in a moment, because you touched on that very briefly here in one of the problems. But you're a former cop. There are people sitting out there right now going, say, wait a minute, you've seen this. You've seen it from the ground level. And not only that, you know as well as I do, Captain, there are people out there who are saying that marijuana is a gateway drug that leads to stronger drugs. And that has been talked about, and that has been destroyed in so many arguments. But people are going to ask, how can you, as a former cop, say that it's a good idea to make recreational marijuana legal?
You know, I believe that the legalized system of regulation and control in the legal market works better than the illegal market. And, you know, all these statistics about marijuana use, 40% of Ohioans have tried it. So, you know, how is the law really deterring them? And one significant piece of research is the study done by the University of Michigan every year on high school students. And one of the questions they ask kids is, alcohol easier to purchase than illegal drugs? Which is easier? And the kids always say illegal drugs. Pushers on the corner aren't asking for IDs. They're not worried about what's in this stuff they're selling. So I think the legal system is more effective in controlling marijuana than the illegal system.
In your opinion, is marijuana no worse than alcohol?
I'd say that's a 100% true statement.
And why is that? Because there are people saying that they don't equate.
Well, look, how many people have died of marijuana overdoses? Absolutely zero. And
only if they're eating too
alcohol
many
overdoses
Twinkies
every
at 3
year.
o'clock in the morning, I think. That's only if they got the munchies and heading up to the drive-in window, I think. But you are exactly right. That's what a lot of people will say. I got about a minute left, and I have to ask you this. You mentioned issue 3 a moment ago. One of the points in this was the business plan, limiting the cultivation of the state's crop to 10 already chosen properties. Wasn't that not the biggest mistake they made, and that's what made this a loser?
I'd agree 100%. That monopoly accusation just caught on. I have I was in no way financially benefiting from this, but in my opinion, the proposal was better than the status quo. What's going to continue to happen now, we're going to continue to feed money to the cartels, continue to criminalize people for behavior that the last 3 presidents have involved themselves in. And it fails the hypocrisy test.
30 seconds. Do you believe that within the next 5 years, the preponderance of states in America will have legal recreational marijuana?
I'm not sure on the timeline, but I think eventually we're going to get there, and probably more sooner than later.
So you would say probably not 5 years, but at least maybe within the next 10 years.
I think that'd be a good prediction.
Captain Howard Rahtz, you have been on the ground before and you make some excellent points. Please come back again and join us, because this is a discussion that, simply because of what happened in Cincinnati, will just not go away. Captain Howard Rahtz, thank you so much for joining us. I'll look forward to talking to you again. Now, how can there be any real journalism in America when a journalism teacher is seeking to incite racial unrest with what has been proven by video to be a bag full of lies? That's in Telling It Like It Is, and it's coming up next right here on the fastest 60 minutes in news, The Hardline.